with drama at the Zondo inquiry, the chaotic scenes at Brackenfell High School, that's in Cape Town, and some mixed news on the economic front. Let's speak now to Makhudu Sefara. He is the Times Live editor, and he joins us now online. Mr. Sefara, thank you very much for making the time to speak to us. Talk to us about perhaps the Zondo Commission first up. What are you hearing from your end point about the former president and the kind of action that the Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo is being urged to take? Because people are saying he needs to be firm on the former president. He can't just walk out of a commission.
Yeah, good afternoon, Xoli and the viewers. It's a bit of a tricky situation for the Deputy Chief Justice Zondo because essentially there's very few options on the table for him because the conduct of the former president Jacob Zuma is not only unprecedented, it forces his hand as the judge to say if he allows the former president to walk and there are no clear and visible consequences, the implications are how then should the other witnesses who are compelled to appear or who are subpoenaed must respond. But one of the difficulties that he faces is that if he issues a warrant, for example, for the former president gets arrested, he gets given a fine. It essentially means that he can pay that fine and walk, or he can serve that 6 months or whatever time for contempt. After that, he doesn't owe the State Capture Commission anything. And that's not the kind of outcome that I think the Deputy Chief Justice is looking for.
Yeah.
Because if he does that, there are no answers for the kind of testimony and how the former president was implicated by various witnesses before the commission.
Should the Deputy Chief Justice have anticipated this behavior, Mr. Sefara? And I say this because of what appears to have been intransigence on the part of the former president, whether it be his legal team. It was clear the kind of background, the history that he went to. This is the Deputy Chief Justice when he was handing down the verdict on whether or not he should recuse himself from this, from the testimony of the former president. Should Justice Raymond Zondo have anticipated this and actually have had a plan B waiting in the wings? Because when the former president pulled the stunt, because it is a stunt, when he pulled the stunt, the Deputy Chief Justice himself seemed in shock, where he couldn't even utter words. You could tell that he was caught off guard here.
Yeah, I imagine he would have anticipated it because a large number of us did in fact anticipate it. The former president has been playing cat and mouse kind of games with the commission and not answering, not willing to come and saying he's sick, but the sick notes required investigation and all manner of things. There's a rich background as you indicate, but I am not certain that he doesn't have a plan B. I think that even though he was shocked, he appeared shocked. He didn't want to make a decision on the spot, but rather, in my mind, wanted to take the entire weekend reflecting, so that whatever decision he takes, because he knows there's both legal and political implications for that decision. So whatever decision he takes, it is something that he has had a bit of time to think about, process, and look at what the implications for that are.
Yeah. Let's move on to the issue of Brackenfell. And this is where the EFF staged a protest, a legal one at that. They had applied and they were given permission for them to march to that school. And then, of course, what happened, I think we all saw on our television screens. The question I have for you is whether this, or how much of this, is a reflection on the society, South African society as a whole, all races factored in here, in particular black and white, and how much of it is a failure of government in trying to deal with issues of racism?
Well, I mean, I think both. I think that the issues of race are with us and are still going to be with us for a very long time. And it's not a thing to plan for or to spend too much time thinking about. It is a thing that is happening in our country at the moment. There are way too many examples that show that we as a country are struggling to manage the race relations and the dynamics that come as a result of that. It is a thing that is an offshoot of course, our history, apartheid itself, and colonialism before that gave rise to the kind of challenges that we have and the kind of separate developments that we have, and there are times for certain people to just make sure that there's parties for white people and black people are excluded, and I mean, it's on quite a number of fronts. The settlements that we have, where you stay in relation to economic opportunities. But that said, I think that government itself has a responsibility to make sure that institutions, whether in education or throughout the many sectors of our economy, transform, and that not all of these are going to transform because they themselves believe that transformation is a good thing to do, but it is important for the state to put in place mechanisms, programs that are enforceable to make sure that institutions transform, because racism itself was institutionalized. But that's too said. In relation to the violence that we see or that we have seen in Brackenfell, the state too had a responsibility, and especially given that the EFF had said after the initial march that we are going to go back to Brackenfell, and when we do, our impact is going to be felt. So the level of preparedness of the state through the SAPS in this past week left much to be desired, because the state would have known, as all of us did, that the stakes are high, the emotions are running high, and the environment is supercharged. And so therefore it is important not just to bring the barbed wire, but to make sure that there's a proper plan to make sure there's no violence or a repeat of the kind of violence we have seen.
All right. Makhudu Sefara, I'm going to ask you to stay exactly where you are. We're going to continue this conversation with you in just a moment, and we're going to talk also about reports that are coming out of some of the weekend newspapers, which include developments around Mokwadi Cholota. This is the person who was the personal assistant of the now ANC Secretary General, but of course he was a PA to Ace Magashule at the time that he was Premier of the Free State Province. That and more in just a moment. You're watching Newsfeed, the weekend edition.